The weather's well, yeah, the weather's been crazy lately, right? Like, I don't know what it's like in New York, but here it's just insane. The reason why I'm saying this here at the very beginning is because I don't know if we're going to make it through this entire episode. But my name is Jason White, and we're currently experiencing a freezing rainstorm here. And with the sort of intensity that it's going, we might get cut off. And thank God it's not live.
Is it live or is it Memorex, they used to say, from my generation?
With me today, I have my old friend Daniel Braum, and we're going to be discussing his new collection, Phantom Constellations, which is an excellent collection of short stories. There's like some weird magic stuff going on. It's pretty fitting, honestly.
It is.
Yeah.
I'm like the Predator. I uncloak Phantom Constellations. Thank you for having me back. Wonderful to see you.
Yeah, and I'd also like to mention that we're recording this smack dab in the middle of the 2025 holiday season, and I was wondering, how are your holidays going? Or do you get any time off?
Yeah, I've got some time off. That it's that end of between Christmas and New Year liminal space that I enjoy so much. And yeah, New York is remembered that it's New York. There's finally got some snow after a few years. So I hope your holiday season and all your listeners' holiday season has been a kind one too.
It's been great. A few setbacks here and there, but nothing I'd complain about too much. So, one thing that we always manage to talk about before we get into your stories is music. Because we both have a passion for music. So I was just wondering, have you been to any good concerts lately?
Yeah, I really have. The one that jumps to mind is the band Wardruna. I think they're. I'm going to mangle how they present themselves, but I think they were founded by the drummer of a Euro black metal band. But I think they do sort of like traditional Norse or sort of folk or sort of Viking instrumental music, and they sort of remind me of Dead Can Dance a lot in that they use sort of traditional instruments, and it's just sort of those intense compositions. Saw them about a month and a half ago, really, for the first time. Highly recommend them. Yeah, they seem to get a lot of I think their fan base is sort of like adjacent to like the metal community, at least from the concert that I went to. Wardruna. How about yourself? What have you been listening to?
Oh, well, I've been listening to a lot of like heavier stuff for some reason. I don't know why, but a lot of what would you call post metal?
Okay.
Bands like, sorry, if you think of, I don't know if you're familiar with the band Neurosis, but bands like that, they're really heavy, but not in like traditional like thrash or death metal. It's just very emotional kind of heaviness.
I was going to ask what you liked about it, but you gave me the answer. I jotted that down. I always like to have something new to me to check it out. So appreciate the tip.
They're also kind of tribal in the sense they really like their drums. If you listen to them a lot, you'll get what I mean. Like, you might not get that right away, but I have another question here about live bands. Is there any band that you really want to see live, but you have not been able to yet for whatever reason?
Is that like there's a chance, or like a band in history that like I missed and I never got to see?
Oh man, you know what? I think it might have been you I talked about with this last time, and I missed Alice in Chains when they came through. And then they never came back, and it was my fault that we didn't go see them. But
oh my god, yeah, Alice in Chains. I was like a student when Alice in Chains was playing, and I didn't get Alice in Chains. Like, I was totally aware of them, but like I actually disliked them when they came around. So like I probably had a lot of opportunity for that, and like now I'm like, oh man, I would have loved to have seen that. So I'll go with Alice in Chains. I have no interest to it. I don't feel any ill will towards like other bands, over the other iterations, but to see, to see that classic Alice in Chains would have been something else, huh?
There's one band I'm really happy I got to see live. It was the Ramones. Before they
Ah,
on their last tour, their final tour was on like the Lollapalooza of 1990 something or other, and I got to see them play live there. Now that was pretty cool. I was never really a big Ramones fan, but just being able to see that on their way out, and of
that's
course
cool.
they never came back because like two of them passed away, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, like that was really cool.
I saw the Ramones again, another band I didn't understand. I think I saw them in 88 or 89. There was this tour called the Escape from New York tour. Like all the CBGB bands were doing a stadium tour. And then they, for some reason, the record company put Ziggy Marley, who must have just come out as a hit, on the top of that bill. So it was like this weird show. I wanted to see Debbie Harry, Blondie, and Ziggy Marley. And then there were the Ramones, and I knew they were a famous band. And I saw them, and I was like stunned. I was like, why is every song 2 minutes? And why is every song the same? Like, I just didn't get it. So
Yeah.
I get
No,
it now.
yeah.
I get it now, and I've come to like the Ramones a lot more. But I have to admit and say, like, yeah, I was kind of just like the stunned kind of newbie when I saw the Ramones.
Well, I was too. Like I've heard the obvious songs, right? But when they hit the stage, they don't take any breaks between songs. It's like they finish one song and then one, two,
Yeah,
three, four. They go into the
yeah.
next one. Then one, two, three, four, and they go into the next one. And
I was young and didn't get it, and was like, something's happening that I'm not aware
yeah.
of.
Now I know you're a huge Cure fan. That's where we
Oh
usually
yeah,
touch base on.
oh yeah.
And Perry, what's his name? Beaumont.
I don't know how to say his name. I always say Perry. I would say Bamonte, but my
Yeah, that's
superpower
probably
is
it.
the mispronunciation and misspelling. So don't trust me.
Oh no, don't worry. I have a very much the same superpower. But he passed away just a couple of days ago.
Yeah,
That was a huge loss. I was wondering how that affected you.
it really did affect me. It affected me just because he's so young.
Yeah,
65. He's so young, and just the subject matter of the Cure's most recent outing, and the awareness of mortality, and the songs of the Lost World, was on my mind when I was writing some of the stuff in Phantom Constellations. So
absolutely.
just throwing that into the mix with some other losses, just feeling sort of the ghostly absences this time of year, and some bad news that came my way. I'm like, yeah, it hits hard. So, rest in peace, Perry, and thoughts got to his family and to the Cure, and all of us Cure fans.
Yeah, like the Cure. As you just mentioned, they're mentioned a fair amount in Phantom Constellations. If anything, I would say the Cure haunts this collection.
I wish I could say I did it on purpose, but that was one of those things that when it was done and it all assembled, I'm like, yeah, like I thought, uh, yeah, I didn't do it intentionally, but yeah, they're sort of prominently. It's a prominent haunting. Yeah, you can't. Yeah,
I get excited when people mention music in their writing because I typically don't, and I don't know why. I want to, it just never comes up for some reason. Um, do you ever intentionally go to put a band into a story, or is it just kind of come up as you go?
in this book, I think it's sort of both. Like I sort of like sometimes the emotion came up, and when I was digging into the emotions of the characters, that must have been fresh, and it came in the story we're gonna talk about later on. It was more a combination of both, because it was a story about someone going to New Orleans for a Cure concert, and so yeah, I've done both in the past. It's a story called in the Wish Mechanics called. Now I'm forgetting the name. In American Ghost in Zurich, I used the band School of Seven Bells and their music really intentionally. So I like to do both.
Yeah, that's really cool. Maybe I should just need to shift my focus.
Yeah, or just read a little Stephen King. Maybe I always love the way Stephen King uses music, and sometimes I think people I'm not going to say misuse music because it's free to use however people want it, but sometimes it just sort of dropped as a reference. And I feel on the outside of it, if I don't know the reference, I'm not getting the emotion. But one of the things the great master Stephen King does is whenever he uses music or uses a song, there's either a couple of lyrics or there's some context what it means to the character, or just fits from what's ever happening in there, where you really kind of get it, what it means to them. Speaking of the Ramones, or I
Yeah.
think King is like, at least in his movies, but I'm sure King has used that rock and roll in his music more than once.
Well, Stephen King has like this really. He has a superpower, and that's his memory. I think, I've discussed this with other, maybe even you on my other podcast, Short Bites, that we think that Stephen King might have like an eidetic memory, or
Mm,
a photo perfect memory, because of the way he just brings things, and it always fits perfectly,
wow.
like
Yeah.
fast and.
In addition to that other superpower, as to like just write a really amazing fiction.
Well, I think that you put music in your stories very quite well too. That's why I wanted to ask about it, because
Oh, thank you so much.
I think there's a correlation between short stories and novels, and well, fiction and good music, whatever you define as good music. I think good music often tends to tell stories as well. So
Yeah, the kind I like, for sure.
yeah. Now, Phantom Constellations was published by Cemetery Dance. I was just curious because, sometimes publishers fall under a little bit of scrutiny here and there. But I just want to know what, from your end of things, what's it like working with Cemetery Dance?
I'm so glad you asked that question. Cemetery Dance has been an absolute delight to work with, and it's like not even paying me to say this.
Like
Yeah, I'm a,
they paid me. They paid me.
they paid you,
I'm just joking. They
or
didn't.
they should pay you. They should pay us for the low price of. Um, and I just want to say I'm the sort of person, and maybe I'm the rarity, and maybe this is why I don't have so many friends and colleagues. Where if you're my friend or if you're my colleague, you don't get a pass on any sort of behavior. So, like, even if someone's my friend, or my business partner, and they're misbehaving, or especially towards me, I'm not quiet about it. I can still be like, oh, this person's an amazing author, and they did some awful things, or this person's an amazing editor, and they're a really awful human being from my vantage. I'm a newbie. I came to Cemetery Dance 20 years ago as a newbie, and was always treated so professionally, and to the point when you have a choice of who to work with. That's why I always come back to them and hope for the opportunity. So um, there's a relatively new crew over at the Cemetery Dance trade paperback division. Dan Franklin, Lisa Lebel, and of course headed up by Richard Chismar. And this book, there's so many ways that this book was a delight to work with. Right down to just getting the opportunity to bring back cover artist Dan Sauer, who did the amazing cover. He worked with me on some other projects, The Night Marchers. So, um, yeah,
Cover art right there
yeah,
again.
this wonderful cover. We called it the Constellation of Dans. It was Dan Franklin, the editor, Dan Sauer, the cover artist.
I
I
like
was the
that.
author. I think some of the copy editor was another Dan or a Daniel going on as well. So yeah, shout out to Cemetery Dance. Find myself very fortunate to be working with them.
Awesome. Now, you worked with them previous. Like, I don't know if you're still doing it, but you own, I guess, the name Nighttime Logic, and it's pretty much what you go under when you do your YouTube videos. And
Yeah, well, I'm not sure if I own it, but it was coined by Howard Waldrop, and I think I'm just
yeah,
I'm just borrowing it. Yeah, it's the name of my column at Cemetery Dance and
yes,
my occasional YouTube show.
yeah. And do you still do that?
Yeah, I still do both. I think Nighttime Logic, you can go over on Cemetery Dance Online, usually about once every couple of weeks, maybe once every month. I get a chance to do interviews with authors. And Nighttime Logic over on YouTube seems to run seasonal. Maybe about twice a year I'll do a little season for a couple of months, and take a fallow period, and then come on back.
Nice. Now this collection is it one of your thickest collections?
I don't know.
The reason it took me longer to get through this one than usual, and that's and holding it in my hand because I have some of your other collections physical form, and this one just feels thicker for a Daniel Braum collection.
I wish I had the others within grasp. I mean, yeah, I guess it's thicker than the one that came out previous. Creatures of Liminal
That one
Space was a flash fiction, so it's thicker. It's thicker than the previous one for sure.
Yeah, I'll have to compare them later. I don't know.
I like that. I like that. Like judging a book by its physicality.
Next, Daniel's going to come out with a collection that's like 500 pages.
Oh my! Let's split that into two. Let's make that.
Let's do that. Yeah. This collection is it's got the same sort of eclectic feel to it that your other collections have, especially not the last one that came out earlier this year, but the one before that,
Underworld Dreams.
Underworld Dreams, yeah, that one had a real strong eclectic feel to it. Excuse me, and so does this one. I want to talk about a few of the stories, and then we'll get a reading from you near the end. But the first story I want to talk about is the first story, Scarecrow and the Imposter. This one, you typically play around with the idea of dimensions, but this one goes for the throat for alternate dimensions. There's no hinting around this one, is there?
Yeah, and now it's hinted, but then it's quite, maybe it's different in terms of the ambiguity or the intentional ambiguity. One thing that is not in question in this story is what is happening, and it is a story about someone who does cross over to another dimension and confronts, or has the opportunity to confront, an alternate iteration of his life. Yeah, it's going for the throat. It's direct. It's not ambiguous about that at all.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that because I kind of like it when it's hinted at or it's ambiguous. That's my favorite form. But when I was reading it, I was just like, oh no. I was like, oh no, this one's like, this is what it literally is.
Yeah. It's a bit of a departure, both for what's collected and just my inspiration. I follow the story. So there was no doctoring that up and making that ambiguous. That's the premise, and for the story to work, we got to go with that.
That's a good idea, though. I mean, every once in a while, it's good to have that. And that's what I enjoyed about it, was that you went for it instead of wondering. But as I said, I do like it when you wonder what's going on, or the storyline is somewhat ambiguous. But this one, it was just fun, being able to know what's going on.
Yeah.
There's a quote in the story too that made me think of some Stephen King, actually, and it says, "There are other worlds than this one, rather than there are other worlds than these." So that's straight from the Gunslinger almost.
Wow! I don't even remember. I'm sure that's something one of the characters said to each other, but that was purely a sub. Because the Gunslinger is such a prominent influence on my imagination that had to have.
Would you say that the Dark Tower influences your work at all? Because I mean, you want to talk about interdimensional.
Normally, I would, like the 2-point answer is I don't think so, but then the real answer is, well, we just proved it right there, and especially since I probably would rate the Dark Tower as maybe not only my favorite Stephen King, but a strong contender, is just one of my favorite works in general. So how could it not?
Absolutely. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, it's not a direct quote because there is a difference. Yeah. But when I saw that, I was like, oh, Dark Tower, awesome. Like there'd be nothing wrong with having like an Easter egg in there, right?
Yeah, I wish I had put a Dark Tower Easter egg in. Well, maybe I did.
You forgot.
We could just call that my Easter egg. I'm glad you caught that.
Nobody else has caught that one.
That skillfully planted Easter egg right there. Thank you for pointing that out, sir.
Oh man, but as I said, you do play around with genre. That's. I mean, there's some science fiction in this. The story we just talked about, is a little bit science fictiony because of the dimensional hopping. But the Hand of Fire is a time travel story that references the Terminator movie. Um,
Yeah,
and I
quite directly.
Yeah, quite directly, and I enjoyed that aspect of it because I think when you introduce the Terminator, you sort of bring up an expectation as to what's going to happen in the story, but what actually happens is the pretty much the complete opposite. Now, I was wondering if was that intentional or did you kind of come by that as you were writing the story?
Yeah, using using the Terminator was very intentional because it the story takes place in the early 1980s. So even it was like sort of that old device. I was going to say old trick, but that old device of like, how do you date a story, and like that's the media that's happening there. But also in films, sometimes we see like a cartoon playing on the screen, or the characters are watching a movie, and that's just sort of a subtle way of just adding some world building or adding the theme in there. So it was definitely uh, something that was on the mind of these characters because it was a something in that pop culture of the time, and b it is a story that does involve time travel. But the story wasn't. That's where that's where the similarities exit because it is hopefully a story about time travel. I hope it's one that you've never seen before in terms of um, I like stories where the time travel is unique, or maybe one you rarely use. Like Tim Powers uses at one of in the classic Anubis Gates. It's ley lines as a means of time travel, and this other there obviously we're familiar with mechanical means of time travel. This the way that the character travels time is one that I had not seen before and wanted to use it in a story, and it fit for this particular story, which is set in the Middle East among the early 1980s Middle East conflicts.
Yeah, and I don't know if you remember, but we had the because this was published in the Jewish
Yeah, I
War.
absolutely remember. We had a wonderful discussion about it,
Yeah, and
and
it was
you hosted us, which I am grateful for hosting us to
yeah,
celebrate that book.
I'm pretty sure because I got this after, like I ordered it before our discussion, but it came after, and everyone pulled out their book and showed it to the screen, and I was like, "Mine's in the mail," but it arrived like the next day. But yeah,
And we are time traveling right now. We're just going to meld that
I'm just
into
gonna
that
put this in
broadcast.
here. I'll just put this in like that. If there's a click, a flash of light, don't worry about it. But did you write the Hand of Fire directly for this anthology, or like?
No, I didn't. Hand of Fire is a really one of my older stories, and it was a trunk story in the way that was a story that I had a hard time selling. Um, I did. I probably mentioned this before. That was a story, not to name names or places, but I would get a lot of positive feedback um, from editors, but they'd be like, "I'm never. This story is too Jewish. We're never publishing this one." You
That's
know.
interesting because it is very Jewish. Like you go into the beliefs and whatnot, and you could even say in today's world it could be controversial.
Oh, I think so. I think so.
But I
And
think
it wasn't I wrote it to be controversial, but yeah, there's it's a sort of when you put a different thing out there, and it's not like, oh, it's not pro one side or pro other. So if you're just sort of putting something out there, it's like, hey, there's something for every side to be unhappy about in
yeah,
this story. So I feel like yeah, this is like not to be George Carlin offending everyone, and I didn't intend that. But when you I'm not going to spoil that story, but yeah, there's something that I think that's everyone's not going to be happy about in that story, and you just gotta sometimes that results in it takes a long time for a story to be published, if ever.
well, I think that's a good thing. Honestly, that especially coming out in this collection today with what's going on. We don't need to go into what's going on in the world. Everyone knows what I'm skirting around here, but people forget that sometimes governments make evil decisions without the people backing them, and terrible things happen as a result. And I think this story kind of brushes on that idea without necessarily naming that exactly, but it kind of does in a sense. I don't know. I just don't want to spoil anything, right?
Yeah,
But
absolutely. Yeah, it definitely, it's a highly charged political situation, but the reason, and I thought about them when including that because yeah, all the reasons, even just being an author that's Jewish, I am categorically excluded and canceled for just that, and that's definitely on my mind. But I did make the decision to put it in there, not for any the political reason, but for the ghostly, the different for the different presentation of what it means to be a ghost. And quite frankly, if it didn't have that in there, then maybe I would have thought, maybe it would have, the die would have landed a little different on including it.
yeah. Moving on, the title story here, Phantom Constellations, that appeared in your collection that came out earlier this year, and we talked about that too.
Yes, it did.
Creatures of Liminal Space. Can you go over, because this is one of my favorites. I love this story.
Ah, thank
Um,
you.
what is it about, and how did you come to write it?
Yeah, Phantom Constellations. Yeah, it just kind of tickled me that it was in the wonderful Creatures of Liminal Space from Dan Sauer's Jack and Apes Press, and it was just it was one of the three longer stories in there, and it just tickled me that this it would be the title story of the next collection,
Mhm.
and it just speaks to how thematically how much I really like the story. Thematically, it is a story about perceptions. The concept of a constellation always fascinated me because a constellation is a construction of humanity. It's something that science, it's something art, science, however, astronomy. They decided like, yeah, there are these constellations. The zodiac is a human thing, and we all agree to it. Don't you see it? Yeah, there's Scorpio. Yeah, connect those dots, and there's a scorpion. But it's not a physical reality out in space. These stars are, you know, unthinkable and countless light years apart. So in many ways, it's an agreed upon illusion, and that allegory or that reference just speaks to me both in what fiction is and also in so much about what it means to be human is, and so much of our relationships are just ships passing in the night, and especially our relationships with each other and our relationships with the supernatural. And I knew that that was going to be the title of this collection, and that was going to be the overarching theme of the book.
I heard you. I read an interview with you, and it says so in the title, the subtitle of this collection too. That it's strange tales and ghost stories. But and you mentioned in this interview that I read that all these stories are haunted in a way,
Yeah,
either
yeah,
directly or indirectly.
yeah. Because I think a lot about ghost stories. Again, I'm a relative newbie to it, and I'm learning about classic ghost stories. I'm learning about contemporary ghost stories, and many of these stories are about haunted people, and they don't intentionally mean to push the envelope as to what is a ghost. But it some of the stories are straight up, yeah, this is a story, and it's got a ghost, and it's gonna scare you,
Yeah.
like that thing. And then there are other things about like, well, also what does it mean to be a ghost? And the literal, the on the page, inside the pages things, what's happening in the story, Phantom Constellations, is about a group of young friends and sort of making their first stabs out into life. And it's a desert story, and one of them, I think one of them at one point remarks, yeah, you took me out into the desert, and I never look at the sky the same way again. And there's so much loaded in there about, and in the course of the story, and as is in the course of, of many of the stories in the book, time races, time starts to accumulate, and that's one of the ways we, in our everyday lives, not even as readers or authors or aficionados of the supernatural, that's one of the ways we as humans are just haunted.
Yeah, and I find that some of these stories they're haunted by the past. A lot of them, and Phantom Constellations is one of them because certain things happen. This story takes place throughout like a course of years,
Yeah,
and certain things happen where the main character didn't do anything wrong, but the other character thought that they had betrayed them, and so that ends a friendship. And I find that the collection here, there's a few stories where similar things happen, where relationships are ended, or it's almost as though like being in a relationship, no matter how casual, can be haunting.
yeah, and it's like the old cliche: "The truth shall set you free" does not apply. It's like
Yeah,
these are hopefully some of the tension is that the main characters and the readers know the truth, but or even when that truth is revealed, it goes back to that's where the ambiguity we began the episode speaking about. That's where the ambiguity comes in. It's like, wow, um, I know the truth. The character knows the truth. I, the reader, oh wow, but this other character doesn't, and that's the tragedy of it. It results in conflict, or the flat out just this is where the story ends, or
yeah,
the story ends for those people, and that is one of the ways that people are haunted in the book. In addition to all the other, it's not just a straight lit book. There are ghosts and alternate dimensions and supernatural occurrences in the mix
yeah.
as well. But
I
Phantom
find,
Constellations is one of the more subtle ones. I got some feedback on that. Actually, it was a near miss of a market I've always wanted to be in. I won't name it, but the editor was like, I came so close to buying the story, but I'm just not sure it's a supernatural story. And you can't argue, you can't point it out, but I was just like, oh,
damn right.
so close. There's the sparkly, so close magic.
Yeah, well, it's a very well done story, but it has like the protagonist fascinates me because this protagonist has sort of a common theme with other protagonists in this collection, where they almost feel like ghosts themselves
Mm.
because they're not ghosts. Like I'm not giving away a detail here.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just the way they float through life. There's this sort of ghostly feel about them. They're almost disconnected in a way, and yet they're yearning for connection.
I think I can't add anything to that. You just hit that right on the head. I think that's a very real human feeling, maybe even especially this time of year for some of us or for some people. And that is another theme. That is another reoccurring element. Yeah,
Yeah, I
a
don't
lot
know.
of the
Like
characters have that.
I wasn't sure if I would get that or not because like it being Christmas time, and generally people are emotionally sort of half and half. It's like maybe I'm just in a liminal space myself, and this
Oh,
is
I'm three
the way I'm
quarters. I'm 3/4 below the bar right now, so I know what you're saying.
But I also feel like there's a sense of loneliness in these characters. A lot of them, they're partying. There's a lot of drug use in some of the stories, um, and it doesn't matter who the protagonist is surrounded by. They're still lonely, and they like I said, they're yearning to be connected in a sense, but at the same time, they're sort of doing stuff and thinking in ways that disconnect them from the people around them.
Yeah, I think that makes for good. It makes for good conflict. I mean, and that is the exploration of the exploration of the theme and the characters and the ways they're haunted, and the ways the different conflicts that arise from it.
Awesome. That's what I love about your writing is the characters. I
Thank
think I
you.
mentioned that. I forget. It might have been with the last Weird Reads discussion we had. I think I said that I compared your characters to Stephen King characters because I identify with them so well.
Wow. I mean, I'm just floored by that comparison because I love Stephen King so much. So thank you.
Yeah, 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 no problem. But we're kind of coming around here to red hair, the Exorcist, red haired daughter. Um, this story, I'm think I'm piecing this together in a sense because I saw your uh, Facebook uh, your Facebook posts about going to the Cure concert
Ah,
in New
okay.
Orleans. So I'm like, this story feels kind of personal in a sense, like uh, because you did actually go to the concert, and I don't know if you went alone, but you did go.
Yeah.
So
I love that ambiguity there. I mean, thank you. I'll just say, yeah, it's a different level of ambiguity, and you and I, we know so many authors and creatives, so I think it's great. I just read a great story where I reached out and was like, "What the hell? Did this really happen to you?" So, I will say that this story did not happen to me, but
well, yeah,
but
I don't think the weird stuff happened, but
yeah, no, I mean, both sometimes, but yeah, it was. I did by means of setting up the story. I did 2 years ago travel to New Orleans to see the opening night of like that U.S. leg of the Cure's most recent concert, and I did get a chance to experience New Orleans, and finally wrote a New Orleans story. For the longest time, I uh, I never wrote a New Orleans story because I felt like one, its ground so well covered, especially in our genre,
mhm.
and I'm just not going to write a story just to set a story there, because it's such well trodden ground, and in many ways it's sacred ground. I'm like, I need to have something original to say, even if it's original to me. So I think the personal aspect of it comes is sort of the meaning behind one of those Cure songs. Even though there's a lot of fantastical, it's quite a ghost story.
Yeah.
But yeah, there is that personal element of hopefully some of the emotion um, has a verisimilitude to it.
I mentioned I don't remember if we were recording or not, but I mentioned that The Exorcist Red Haired Daughter is probably my favorite in the collection. It's the most horrific story. I would say this is definitely direct horror. It's got some witchy vibes to it. uh, this is uh, this is original to the correct collection, right?
Yeah, I was so pleased that you said that. Thank you so much. It's always wonderful to get feedback on what is someone's favorite story, and then especially because I was thinking about it too. I was like, I knew we were just a conversation was going to go there. I was like, wow, that's great that he likes that because maybe I think this in some ways this is what I would call the most maybe on the nose in the box of a horror story in that like the Scarecrow and the Imposter. It's a ghost story, and it's not. At least on first glance, it's not ambiguous because, like, yeah, it's a story about someone, and there's a ghost, and the issue is, yeah, about dealing with this ghost. But it's also, when I thought about it a little more, I'm like, oh wow, is that another story that's not a strange tale? Okay, that goes in the ghost stories of the subcaption. But as I was thinking about, I was self-analyzing the story. I don't really analyze it when I'm working on it, but in thinking about what we're going to talk about, it's one of those stories without giving away the ending, and I won't give away the ending. That the ending actually brings the ambiguity to the story, not in that it's an ambiguous ending, but you realize that wait a minute, there are different versions of this story happening, and the story was ambiguous all along. But we don't, you don't realize that until the ending. So maybe that is a more of a traditional horror structure where now that I think about it, I'm thinking about it as we go. A lot of traditional or classic horror, um, the very end of the story ends with a revelation that sort of colors how you might view the rest of the story. So I'm glad it worked for you. Yeah, it's a structure I don't usually. I tend to not have stories to be structured that way. So I'm glad that it works for you.
Excellent. Yeah, I I always get excited about horror. Um, most of December, I've been reading non horror things. I've been reading a lot of classic stuff, actually, like Fyodor Dostoevsky,
Wow.
stuff like that. It's just been a mood, right?
Yeah. Right.
Raymond Carver,
Nice.
reading his short stories, and Anton Chekhov. There's
Wow.
the
I mean,
story.
you're going right for the good stuff.
It's like I said, it's a mood. It's not
Yeah.
necessarily intentional. I'm just going, but because I've been doing that, whenever I, it's not that I'm trying to ignore horror. It's just I think I needed to take a break from horror, and so coming
Yeah.
back to horror, it's like, oh man, this is where I belong.
Yeah, and the Exorcist redheaded daughter. Yeah, it does. Perhaps more so than my other work. And like, yeah, there's a witch. Yeah, it's in New Orleans. Yeah, and there's a ghost. And perhaps even more different than many of my stories is it might be there's some blood and there's some violence, which is not. I usually don't go too deep into that, but this might
Yeah.
be one of the more on that level that's more present than in
Yeah,
other
for sure.
stories.
There's
Yeah,
at least one scene that's pretty nasty, and
yeah,
I appreciate that too. Of course, if you've read some of my fiction, so you know
yeah,
I tend to go there myself.
yeah. That's the wonderful thing about horror, that it's a spectrum of dialing it up
Yeah.
or dialing it down.
Now,
Um,
I asked you to do a reading from this, as this is my favorite, and I asked you to choose the excerpt that you're going to read from. Now,
and you chose the story.
yeah, I chose the story, which is
Excellent.
the Exorcist red-haired daughter. So if you could set it up and then go into
Yeah,
it.
yeah. I'll set it up in two ways. The first way is I don't have the link handy, but Jason will have it in our show notes. You could read the story for free if you don't have the book yet, or if you just don't plan on getting the book. It's over on Cemetery Dance Online. We'll show you the link where the publisher, just as the promo to this book, that story is published online for free, so you could read along with the story over there.
Yeah, I'll
Um,
definitely add that to the show.
yeah, I'll send that over. I'll figure it out and send that over to you by means of setting up this story. Normally, I'm just going to read. I'm going to read from. Usually, I like to read from the beginning, but I'll try to read from maybe that part that maybe Jason is thinking about. That maybe where it sort of veers a bit more into horror. But yeah, this is about a young man who's maybe no longer young. He's come back. He's come back to New Orleans for this Cure concert after having been away for many years. And when he was there as a teen, he had an encounter with a local supernatural practitioner, and what he perceived as the ghost of her daughter, this red haired young person who has haunted him, and he is now back in New Orleans and is haunted by this figure. And here's just one of the strange hauntings that happens, and
All right.
we'll take it from there, and we'll go for a few pages. I walked back to my room carrying a bag with beignets and a gift can of coffee and chicory from Cafe Du Monde. As I climb the stairs, I realize I have no one to gift the coffee to. I fall asleep with my clothes on and the bag next to me on the big bed. I wake sometime in the quiet of night and glance through my window at the courtyard. It's so tranquil, the perfect place to enjoy my dessert alone and in peace. I plug my phone into charge, grab one of the clove cigarettes I've brought for the concert, and go back downstairs into the humid night and murmur of the fountains. I park myself at one of the round picnic tables with the sun umbrella still up and realize I'm not alone. Someone's in the pool. A woman rises from the shallow end, water dripping from her naked form. She's tall and fit. A tattoo of a serpent is wrapped around her left leg. It winds up her torso with its head on the bottom of her neck, just where the line of her straight black hair ends. She's facing the pool house, but I can swear she's my waitress from dinner. She covers up in a towel and reaches for something at the edge of the pool. There's a solid, metallic clang as she picks up a thin sword, the kind one would use for fencing. The polished blade catches the blue glow emanating from the pool lights beneath the waterline. She carries it into the pool house, then into the changing room without noticing me, or if she does, without a care to my presence. The blinds are partially open. I can see she's dropped her towel and has the blade in her hand. She's moving with it, practicing moves, practicing a routine for a show or martial arts, kata. She tilts her head back and swallows the sword. The entire blade disappears into her mouth. I know some sword swallowing is real, and some is misdirection and showmanship. This has to be an illusion. She pulls the sword from her throat and runs her finger along the edge of the blade. I recognize the same delight, the same way the witch's red-haired daughter touched the astrology book. The moment floods back into me. Is this her? Is this her all these years later? All grown up like me? I don't mean to intrude. She's not wearing any clothes. I make noise. I announce myself. Hello? Hello? I say as I walk past the pool and open the glass doors. She's there before me, in the room with the ice machine, gracefully twirling the sword above her head in slow, sweeping arcs. I could have sworn she was the waitress from earlier, but it is not her. She's someone who looks a lot like her, but it's someone totally different. The woman turns in a circle and lowers the blade, spinning it dangerously close to her legs. I'm sorry, I say. I was out there having a snack and I saw you and thought that you might have been. Wouldn't I look better with tattoos? She says. The very same words the witch's red-haired daughter spoke to me. How could I ever forget? What? What did you say? Why did you say that? She runs the tip of the blade along her foot. A line of crimson wells up. I wince. Oh man, that's sharp. Please be careful. She moves the tip of the blade to her thigh and gives it a thrust. It goes right in. She pushes. It pushes straight through. No! Why did you do that? What are you doing? You're hurting yourself. There's no blood. It has to be a trick. Something like the sword-swallowing illusion. I try to reach her, try to get her attention. Her gaze is blank. It's like she's unconscious. I don't get any recognition of my presence. Is she in some sort of a trance? She pulls the blade out. One smooth motion. Blood spurts from the gash. She stabs herself again and again and again. Spraying blood hits the white walls. Stop it! You're hurting yourself! A jet of blood splashes the ceiling. The room is wet and red and coated with what was inside her seconds ago. She thrusts the blade into her foot, then pierces her other thigh. Stop it! Stop it! Stop it! I run to her. She's laughing, covered in her own blood and laughing. Blood on the ceiling drips on me as I grab her arm. I can't stop her. I can't take the blade. She's too strong. You're hurting yourself. Stop, stop, stop. Her laughter continues as if I'm not there. I slip on the slick floor trying to wrest the blade away and crash down on my ass. I slide around trying to get up as she keeps stabbing herself. I get to my feet and run for help. The front desk guy is cool and composed and says nothing at the sight of me covered in blood. There's someone in the courtyard, I say. She's hurting herself. She needs help. She's hurt. Call an ambulance. Yes, sir, he says. Don't worry. We've got it under control. Under control? Call an ambulance. Do something. I got this, he says. No, you don't. I need you to do something. This isn't a leaky toilet. Call the police. You were told never to return here, he says. What? What did you say? Sir, I said I got this, he says, in a flat monotone. I dash back to the pool house. My bloody footprints are all over the place. A line of blood has leaked through the bottom of the glass door and is seeping towards the pool. The woman is motionless on the floor, the blade next to her. She's almost bled out. I've never seen so much blood. We'll stop it right there to just give a give a rendition of that scene.
Absolutely. Yeah, that that scene is definitely one of the goriest ones scenes you've ever written.
I think so.
But it's really good, and it's kind of reminiscent of a certain Aikman story that we're both fond of.
Yeah.
Except that one there was no blood. This one is blood. Yeah. absolutely adore this story, and that was, I remember when you pulled out the sword, I was like, oh, the swords.
Yeah, yeah. As I was reading it, and as we were, we can't. As we were doing the sound check, we're like, maybe we can go. Maybe someday I'll go. I'll give an interview where I don't talk about Robert Aikman, or I don't talk about Robert Aikman the Swords, and that day is not today.
Well, it's not 2026 yet, so if
So
it was,
yeah, we
if
can
it was
make
a
a
resolution, you can go at it one more time.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, we wear our inspirations on our sleeves sometimes.
And there's nothing wrong with that either.
Yeah, I did think about the comparison to Robert Aikman's The Swords is just dead on the nose there. So
And that's like, it's completely different from the swords. It's just like, it's sort of like an Easter egg on its own, and I appreciated that. And it's much gorier and very more.
yeah,
Well, it's disturbing in a different way than Robert Aikman's classic story.
yes,
Now, I have to ask this, because when I'm reading through this, it's somebody else's work, I'm like finding favorites and whatnot. I'm wondering, as the author, do you have a favorite short story from this collection?
wow. Like it's hard. Like, of course I do, and like everyone has been. Everyone has been my favorite at one time or the other. I think to be an author, you have to have that mad insanity to overcome whatever creative process or whatever self doubt, and you have to have that madness of just loving it. So whichever the last one, I'm trying to think which the last one I wrote, but I really like Scarecrow and the Imposter. I really like what happens in that. I really like, man, I really like them all. It's so hard, given given a different day, a different day. It seems like they're a group of favorites. So today it will be the Scare. It'll be the Exorcist's red-haired daughter, because it was the right story. It was the right story for the right time. It was your favorite. I got a chance to revisit it and talk about it and read it. So I'm feeling the love for it right now. That
Awesome.
was probably not the
Yeah.
right answer, but
No. You know what?
the answer du jour.
One reason why I ask that is because authors always struggle to answer that. They the typical answer is, "Oh, they're like all my children. I can't."
Yeah, I
just
think I
pick
gave
one,"
that.
right?
I think I gave
Yeah.
that.
But I, with my own work, I do have favorites, and some that are lesser than favorite. But I enjoy most of what I write. I went through a period of time where I hated what I wrote, everything I wrote. How important do you think it is to champion your own work to a degree?
For me, I don't. I'm not really in the business of giving advice to anyone else, other than you should. That's a subject that can cause a lot of different feelings, good and bad, in people. So I just want to. I want to preface my advice in that I think people should have their relationship with promoting their work and championing their work to whatever feels right to them, because that's something that, as being an indie author as myself, a lot of that is on the indie author's shoulders, and there's always more you can do. There's so many different avenues where you can feel bad about that, comparing yourself to someone else, or comparing yourself to this situation, or being part of this club or not being part of that club. That being said, I love the putting the work out there. Unlike Mr. Aikman, who famously refused and never would talk about his work, I like talking about the work. Even more so, I like doing things like this, like talking with a fellow colleague, learned colleagues such as yourself about it. I like doing local events where I actually can talk to readers. I could talk to people who've coming back to my work, or I could even talk to people who are reading my work for the first time and engage with them how they feel about stuff. So that is to me, that's a really great part of it. So that's a part that I really like.
One reason why I ask that is because writing is such a singular thing. And oftentimes, like when I went through that period where I hated everything I wrote, it wasn't that I was writing bad necessarily, or bad work. It was just that it was a mindset. And I think it can easily fall into that in,
Yeah.
into that mindset. And that's something I kind of want to help people through, if anyone who listens to this is a writer, because it can be a very lonely place. And I think a lot of writers might give up because they feel that everything they're writing is crap. And I see people on Facebook all the time saying that they hate their work and all this stuff. I don't think that's the great mindset to have if you're wanting to create stories.
Who am I to judge people's mindsets? But I will second your notion that if it can reach people not to give up, to finish your work, to do try to put it out there. I'm a believer that I'm not really saying as eloquently as some of the great artists or scholars have said over the years, but that every single one of us has something to say, and and no one. I can't write like you, Jason. Jason, you can't write like me. We can't write like the third person, and therefore every single one of us has something infinite to contribute to the genre. So the stuff that we might in our isolation we might tend to hate and be like, oh, my stuff isn't worthy, or isn't, I hate it, I hate this, I hate that. That very likely, if you can steer into it, is what makes your work special, and is exactly what readers like you and I are wanting to read, and it's probably something really fresh and really valuable. And that's hard to like see the forest from the trees, like when you're in a spell like that. But hopefully that advice can reach someone.
Yeah,
I second your advice on that for sure.
I just think that if you're wanting to tell stories and write, then you should
Yeah, and
try to find a way to enjoy what it is you're doing.
oh, okay, I see what you're saying. Well, yeah, why not?
Oh,
Yeah, because yeah, like
everything you said beforehand is exactly what I was talking about. But what I'm saying here is also you need to like. There's going to be struggles and whatnot. But
yeah.
I
Well,
think
some people write from pain. Who am I to tell you not to do it? I
absolutely,
don't.
yeah, that too.
Right. I try to enjoy it. I try to make it as comfortable as possible. I try to treat myself well. I try to make it comfy. I try not to write from pain, but I don't know. I'll never tell someone not to
I'm
not do
I'm
that.
no, I'm saying bleed on the page too. Bleed on the page for sure, but you still have to. It still has to be something in there that you enjoy. I think, unless of course it's very cathartic experience.
Yeah, and yeah, I guess that's what I'm getting at is I didn't realize how many people that it is that kind of experience that they're like, don't tell me how to enjoy it. Like
Don't tell me.
I'm not saying, yeah, don't tell me, and I'm like, wow, that's not my experience. But yeah, like for me, it isn't a cathartic experience. It probably is, like if we pick at it, but it's not, at least on the surface, so much as like, oh wow. To some people, it really is a direct line cathartic experience, and that's maybe not easy when people are going through it, but it works for them and it works for the story. And yeah, I'll never. I don't think you meant to impinge on that, but yeah, like some people, that is their process.
Yeah, actually, I'm fascinated in learning about other authors' process, and that's one reason why I ask the questions I ask. And what got me into that was reading Stephen King's his memoir. There, what's it called again?
On writing, is it
On
on
writing,
writing?
yeah,
Yeah.
on writing. He mentions a lot of different authors' processes on in that book, and that's what got me thinking. Every writer has their own process, and every writer comes to writing in a different way, and so I like learning about writers as well and what they're. I want to be that guy who quotes, "Well, Daniel Braum when he's writing a story, you know what I mean?" Like,
Mm,
uh,
absolutely,
in
absolutely.
conversation and whatnot. All right. Well, I think that I've reached the end of my questions. Is there anything else you'd like to say about Phantom Constellations before we cut out?
Just thank you, Jason, for picking up the book, for uh, this opportunity to talk about it, and for such interesting insights into it. And yeah, thanks to people who've picked it up or who will make it part of their ghostly explorations, be it this season or in the season to come.
Any season this
Any
book
se-
works for,
Thank you so
and
much.
um, I before we go, is there anything that you can tell us about any upcoming releases?
Yeah, not at this time, but there's some exciting there's some exciting news that hopefully yeah will come. Hopefully we can edit that out. So yeah, I can't. Ink isn't dry, but
Yeah, if you can't talk
yeah
about it, that's perfect.
yeah
But there is stuff.
some good things happening for the book and for some future books. So I'm
Excellent.
very fortunate.
I'm very happy to hear about that, as always. I want to thank you so much for coming on and talking with me again. It's always a great time talking with you.
Thank you
And
for having me back. The feeling is very mutual.
where's the best place people can find? I'm pretty sure it's Facebook, but where's the best place people can find you if they want to keep updated to what you're doing?
Yeah, I'm on Facebook pretty often. That's the social media. I think I'm on all the social medias and various levels of engagement. My website is bloodandstardust.wordpress.com, which I try to update that. And I think what's new is that I've endeavored to keep a mailing list. So I do now have a mailing list that you can sign up for. Now I just need to send out mailers. You know, I was supposed to send out announcements. I promised people that I won't spam or send out stuff, but I haven't even sent out anything at all. So hopefully in 2026 I'll get around to using that mailing list to send out news about upcoming releases. But you can find that on my website there. And hopefully I'll be coming back in 2026 to your show to talk about some of our favorite authors as well.
Absolutely, you're always invited here. Just hit me up, and we'll schedule it in. And we do have some plans for the show later on in 2026 too, regarding other people's work.
That's
And
what I'm alluding to, and very much looking forward to it.
all right, thanks so much. We'll talk to you again soon.